There are no roadblocks scheduled today on either Highway 70 or 54 South. For the latest roadblock information, call 575-678-1178. Tonight's forecast is calling for cloudy skies, 30% chance of precipitation, with that being snow up in the mountains. In Alamogordo, overnight low of 37 for Cloudcroft, a low of 26. For tomorrow, we're looking at mostly cloudy skies, 30% chance of precipitation, being snow up in the mountains. In Alamogordo tomorrow, high of 50, low of 38. Cloudcroft tomorrow, high of 34, overnight low of 26.
This is the Roundup on ESPN Alamogordo 103.7. Going from the Tularosa Basin and beyond, this is your local connection to the world of sports. From high school to college and to the pros, we cover the latest news and the biggest stories. Don't forget, this is your show. Change the topic anytime. Call us at 437-1230. The Roundup starts right now. ESPN Alamogordo 103.7. Hello and welcome into the show. Hope everybody's having a very, very good Monday. It's going to be kind of a weird week for shows because we'll have a show today, and then we won't have a show again until Thursday, and then we won't have a show on Friday. So it's kind of a strange week. We've got baseball Tuesday and Wednesday this week, and then Thursday we'll have Coach Cisco on, do our weekend preview stuff. And then Friday, I'll be on my way to Roswell. So, yeah, just to kind of give you an idea what the deal is for this week. It's just kind of strange, but last week it'll be like that for a while because baseball obviously heads into the World Series next week. Not going to be day games anymore, even though I think it would be kind of cool if we had more World Series day games, but alas, not the reality of it. I don't think I've ever grown up when they had World Series day games. I think there's something kind of cool about that. But I also understand people are working and there's money to be made in prime time, not during the daytime. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense for the people who spent ridiculous amounts of money on the TV rights, right? Right. Anyway, we'll get to some local stuff. Wasn't a particularly busy weekend. We only had one high school football game across the area. We did have soccer, we had cross country, we had some volleyball, so we'll touch on all that. Of course, getting ready for high school football this weekend, district openers for Alamogordo and Tularosa. Cloudcroft gets back into district. Mescalero, I believe, finishes their season this weekend. And we'll try to do our best to get you all up to speed on all of that. As always, if you want to call in, 437-1230, always happy to hear from y'all, whatever you're thinking from the weekend. It was a good weekend of sports. I thought the NFL games yesterday were pretty solid. We had 4 top 10 upsets in college football over the weekend. Penn State, West Virginia, Georgia, which upset's kind of a heavy word there for that game. West Virginia losing, I'd say, was a pretty heavy upset. But I say what the odds makers didn't think. So I think West Virginia was like a 6 or 7 point favorite in that game. I don't think Penn State was a heavy favorite in theirs. And who was the other top 10 team that lost? It's escaping me at the moment. I'll figure it out. Washington. And again, not really a huge upset. I want to say they were like a 2 point favorite at Oregon. Let me see. 3.5. Georgia was a 7 point favorite on the road. That's probably the biggest upset of the weekend. I'm sure points-wise there's one out there that's bigger, but even so. So we'll touch on all that. We'll see if we get to it today or not. Since we don't have as much local stuff, we may be able to get into it today. We'll start where I was on Saturday. Alamogordo boys soccer, just a really good soccer match. The emotions, I think, got a little too high, especially at the end of the match. And, that's kind of what you expect. I sit with a couple people there, and I don't know if there is a more uncomfortable sport to watch, at least where I sit between the two benches, than soccer, and boys soccer in particular, because there's just a tenseness, and I don't know what it is with soccer. I mean, basketball, I'm kind of in the same area, and maybe it's because I'm calling the game, but And it feels like that, there's complaining about the officials more, and usually it's the opposing team that's doing it, but not to say that our side hasn't before too, but it just, I don't know if I'm the only one who feels that way, and it just there's an extra tenseness to it that's on me. I mean, I can choose not to let that kind of bother me, but I don't know. I think it was Kyle Henderson, who doesn't do a whole lot of stuff with NM Preps anymore. I think he actually runs a site that covers Alabama. But he posted a question out there about fans being on officials an entire game, which I hate. I hate coaches being on officiating the entire game. I hate when players are complaining about it. I can understand coaches to a point because they're trying to lobby for things, and maybe just, if anything, to get them to pay attention to something that a player is doing that maybe the official is not seeing, but the coaches are. I can sort of understand that within reason. I think when you're yelling at them, it's not a good look, and but I talked about it last year, how I had kind of reached the end of my rope with all of that, and it's had some more of that in the game between Gadsden and Alamo. Had it with Chaparral and Alamo earlier in the year, and it's just, like I said, it's uncomfortable. Didn't seem to bother the officials. I just, I like to go out and enjoy sports, and seeing people screaming and yelling at officials just doesn't really do it for me. Gotta say. So, and I'm definitely not sitting here. I'm not here to say whether the officials did a good job or not. I'll be the first one to tell you, in terms of soccer officiating and fouls, I don't have a real good grasp on some things that, I mean, there's ones that are clear fouls. Somebody who's watching soccer for the first time can go, oh, they're probably not supposed to do that. But I think there's some intricacies in terms of the way that you can do things as a player. You can be physical, but there's obviously certain things you can and can't do. And I would never be the guy to sit here and complain, oh, they should have been calling that, and they should have. I just don't feel comfortable with it. The things I always talk about with officiating are consistency and knowing the rules. If they're doing that, I have no big issues. Because it's hard for the kids if there isn't consistency. It's hard for the players in general if there isn't consistency. And knowing the rules, that just, I think you would talk to most officials and be like, yeah, that's not good. And there's a lot of rules to know. In soccer maybe not as much. There's a lot more interpretation in soccer. But football, basketball, baseball, there are some baseball and softball especially. You get into these situations where you're sitting there going, I'm not even sure what they're supposed to call here. It's not easy. I encourage people, if they're interested in doing it, to go out and get involved. We always need officials for high school sports and youth sports across the entire state of New Mexico. But here's what I would say is, if you're going to do it, at least put in the effort. And I'm not criticizing anybody that hasn't been here in the area. I'm just saying those are the only things that really get to me about officiating. And maybe if there's a little bit of an attitude with the official, if they're looking to be antagonistic. I think officiating should always be a case of where you're trying to de-escalate the situation. You're not trying to make the coach upset or further it any. You're trying to calm it down. At least I feel like that's the best way to do it. But I think we see it in every walk of life. There's always going to be a little bit of ego with all that kind of stuff. So anyway, I know I got off on a little bit of a tangent there, but I saw that post like right after I was at the soccer match, and to me it was more of, you yell at the officials and you complain at the officials as a player, as a coach, as a fan. Do you think they're going to change their decision because you're screaming at them? Genuinely, for anybody that likes to get on officials and yell at them and scream at them, what does that do for you? I would love for somebody that likes to do that, I'd love to understand that. I was that guy when I was a little bit younger. Not that long ago. And I think just covering high school sports every year has calmed me down as a fan in terms of how that stuff can make me mad. And I just, where you're mad to the point where, you want to do something physically. And I've seen that. That's not from Saturday. That's just from other things. And I just, relax. It's just sports. I know the kids are working hard, and I think the feeling a lot of time is that the officials are ruining all the hard work these kids have put into what they're doing. And I guarantee you, none of those officials are going into it thinking, I'm just going to make a call. I don't care if these kids have been working their tails off. I don't care. Come on. And I hear coaches complain about, about the officials constantly and getting on them constantly. And, you keep doing that. You keep acting that way. It's going to come to a point where people are going to be like, you know what? I don't want to do this. And so what's going to happen then? I mean, genuine question. We've reached that tipping point, I feel like, in youth and high school sports across the country with officials that they're just getting to the point where, like, you know what? I'm not going to do it. I got better things to do with my time. Just need to reel it back in a little bit. And again, this is speaking for everybody, not at anybody specific. And I think there's a lot of great fans out there. I think it's the few that kind of ruin it. And I think there's a lot of great coaches out there and players. And again, there's just a few. But there's one thing I will say. Coaches who spend an entire game complaining at an official, that carries over to the team. You can't tell me it doesn't. When you're on the official the entire game, to me it shows that, hey, it's okay for the players to do the exact same thing. And that anytime there's a decision and it's against you, well, it must be wrong. That stuff carries over. Sometimes coach doesn't do that and the players do that. It happens. But I think it certainly does pass on, if the coach has that mentality going into a game. So, see, I said I was going to move on. I didn't. All that being said, that was a great match on Saturday. I thought it was hard fought. It was 1-0 pretty much the entire way. And I'm sure the Alamo boys don't feel good about the results at the end of it. But I thought, especially in the first half, they controlled the possession, just couldn't score. And Gadsden got an early goal. That's been an issue for the Tigers this year, is giving up early goals. They've had that problem this season. It was a much better effort than the first game. You figure they lost 8-1 to that team the first time around, and they turn around and it's a 2-1 game, and a game that they certainly had the chance to win. Big difference for me. Now, in terms of the district, it's smarts for the Tigers. It's one that's going to hurt them because they're now a half game back of Gadsden, and they're a full game back in the loss column. So they're essentially third place. They don't get Mayfield again. Now Gadsden gets Mayfield again. So that's the problem that'll run into for the Tigers is if Gadsden loses to Mayfield, Tigers will lose the tiebreaker to the Panthers because they lost both games. If they lose, if Mayfield loses to Gadsden coming up, then the Tigers, I think, would still lose that tiebreaker based on district goals, at least this point. May change a little bit up as time goes on. So the Tigers are kind of in a bad spot. They really needed that win on Saturday to kind of they would give them a full game lead over Gadsden, and then they could hope for maybe Gadsden beating Mayfield. That would have put them for a chance to win a district championship. Now it gets a little bit more complicated. Doesn't mean, by the way, that Mayfield beating Gadsden and Mayfield possibly losing again to somebody else. It could happen. But that can also be said for the Tigers. Oñate is now 5-4 in district. They won their game on Saturday. They still got Cruces, who's sitting at 500 in district. So kind of an interesting dynamic coming forward. And I'm the champion for Deming. I'm going to tell you what, man. They're 3-12-1 and they're 1-7. I think they're way better than their record. But I also think Centennial is too. And it also could be a fact that maybe the district overall is not particularly strong. I don't know. From what I've seen, I think Alamo, Gadsden, and Mayfield are all pretty good. Did we see Oñate earlier this year? I don't know if I got to see that game. Did I? Now I don't remember. Let me go back and look at the Alamo schedule, see if I can remember. 3-1. It was a Saturday afternoon game. I might not have been there for that one. No, I was. That's right. Yeah, I saw that game. Still think Oñate is pretty good. Sorry, I got to pause. I'm getting text from Jaime. First off, he said that our radio show was getting a lot of static, and then he accidentally moved his antenna on his radio, and now it's okay. Sorry, I get text during the show, and I get distracted. I just had to share that one because it made me laugh. I'm glad you can hear me okay now, Jaime. I'm happy about that. Anyway, but yeah, Cruces, haven't seen Cruces in person yet, but 3-1 game there. Cruces obviously sitting in 500 district. They've played pretty well. Seen Deming. Like I said, I think they're pretty solid and are certainly capable of beating the Tigers. So, by no means was that. Now Jaime's going to turn me off. The loss to Gadsden, I don't think is a bad loss. I think the top 3 teams in the district are all pretty even. And the Tigers just lost a hard-fought game. That's just how it goes sometimes. So the negative for the Tigers, that's what's going to be coming forward. They just got to focus on trying to win their final 4 games or their final 3 games, and then see how everything shakes out. That's about all you can say for the Tigers. And you know what? Listen, going into the game on Saturday, they probably shouldn't have been focusing, and I don't know if they were. I was, because I'm the radio, I'm the media, and I'm going to pick out those things. But just try to go out there and win the remainder of the game. It shouldn't matter if this team's 3rd in district, or just beat the team in front of you. So if they get to 9-3, we'll see. The question is going to be, how high up the rankings will Gadsden and Mayfield get, because if Alamo does finish behind them, remember, they have to be seated behind them. So going to hurt Alamogordo's chances of maybe getting a home playoff game. They very well could be on the road in the first round. But again, all that will also depend on how Gadsden and Mayfield finish up their seasons. One of those teams is maybe going to lose. There's always the possibility of a tie in soccer, so who knows what might happen there. And I'm sure both teams would be okay with a tie. It would still keep them ahead of the Tigers, and they would be okay with it. But Gadsden and Mayfield are both saying, we can go win our district championship if need be. So there you are. That's where we're sitting with 2 weeks left in the season, 3 games remaining for Alamogordo boys soccer, and we'll see how they finish up. But Saturday's loss definitely hurt in terms of the standings. It's going to hurt their chances of winning a district championship outright. They could still be in the running for a tiebreaker. The problem is a lot of the tiebreaker scenarios are not in the Tigers' favor at the moment. That's the unfortunate aspect of it. Alamogordo girls cruised to a win over Gadsden 8-1 on Saturday. Shauna Williams had another hat trick. She had 3 goals. I'll tell you what, she has just absolutely torn it up this year for the Lady Tigers. Not too dissimilar from what we saw last year. How many goals does she have this season now? 33? She has 33 goals. 33 goals in 14 games. So she's averaging about 2.5 goals a game right now. Just a sophomore, by the way. Should point that out more often. Just a sophomore. And this team is so light on upperclassmen. Tori Barunda, Cheyenne Drake, I think, are the only 2 seniors that start for the team out there. So we're talking freshmen. I forget Janae Shackley's just a freshman. She played pretty much the entire last year as an 8th grader. Sydney Dorchester, who had a couple of goals, as a junior. Dion Molina is a junior. Lily Strong, who's played majority of the season, is a freshman. Gabby Sandoval, who's picked up 8 goals this season, is a sophomore. Kylie Nelson, who's played more on the back end, is a sophomore. Who's somebody else that... Lindsay Norwood, who we had for Athlete of the Week last week. She's just a sophomore. So, yeah, these are just goals that I'm looking at right now. You've got other players that I might be missing somebody else that's a senior. Let me see. No, I'm not. There's only 3 seniors on the team. it feels like this team should have more upperclassmen, but they don't. It's so strange. It's a unique group, and it seems like, when we talked to Coach Barbosa at the beginning of the season, that for as much experience as they have, they're still very young across the board. So if they continue to build and continue to show improvement, this year in terms of a postseason bid may not happen, but I think we've also seen some improvement from the group this year from some of their games. They just don't have what you would consider any quality wins this year. That's what's killing them, at least in terms of playoff possibilities. Lovington, Chaparral, Sanity, Deming, Gadsden. Oñate and Las Cruces are solid wins. Deming again, Gadsden. So, those two wins, the Cruces and Oñate wins, are probably the ones that stand out more than any of the others. But, Oñate is 4-8, and Cruces is 7-6. That's probably their best win of the season, is over Cruces High. But I feel like they played Centennial tough. They played Mayfield better each time they went up against them. And that's the thing I appreciated about the girls this year, is I thought they were usually better the second time around they saw an opponent. So I think the second time they saw Hobbs, they were considerably better. The second and third times they faced Centennial, it was better. Not what they want, but it's still an improvement. There's something to be said about that they're seeing what they need to do better. It's getting through them what Coach Barbosa is trying to do for them. So, like I said, it may not end up in a postseason run for the Lady Tigers this year, but again, I think you're seeing some improvement that's going to show up at the end of the day, or next season, perhaps. Always hard to look forward towards next season, but they've still got 3 games left, and like I said, I think it's going to be tough for them to get in, and it's going to be tough for Mayfield to get in. I mean, they're going to be right there on the edge of being a playoff team, and they're going to finish second in that district. And I very well could see them beat Centennial when they play them the second time around. I don't know if that's this week that they get that game, but certainly could end up being that. All right, volleyball lost in straight sets to Mayfield on Saturday. It's been a real tough district run. They had a tough go of it against Mayfield on Saturday, so they'll try to bounce back. However, they get Centennial coming up tomorrow. Centennial's 11-4. They're 6-1 in district. Cruces High is clearly the class of the district, but Centennial is not too far behind. And what are they, top 5 in the state? No, Centennial's a little bit further down. They're down at 9. Not a lot of love for the South in volleyball. La Cueva, Sandia, Rio Rancho, Piedra Vista, Volcano Vista are the top 5. Then it's Cruces, Cibola, Farmington, Centennial, Santa Fe. Hobbs is at 11. So, yeah, not a ton of South teams in that top 12 in 5A. I think, 3? Hobbs, Centennial, and Cruces High. So, hopefully the Lady Tigers keep fighting at it. I know that, again, a team that's probably not going to have, postseason, but just see if you can maybe surprise somebody here at the end of the season, get a couple of district wins, and keep building. That's the same thing for Alamogordo volleyball. I'll definitely say in the match that I've watched them this year, they've showed huge improvement over the last couple of seasons that I've watched Alamogordo volleyball. So hopefully that will continue for that group. What else we got? Mescalero volleyball, a winner in 4 sets over Lordsburg, and a big district win for them. They bounced back after defeat to Mesilla Valley Christian last Tuesday. So they're 1-1 in districts, and they get Capitan on Tuesday. I thought Cloudcroft was their next one. So Capitan, which pretty good rivalry between those two sides. Capitan comes in at 7-7, 1-1 in district themselves. So certainly a big game for both sides. Mescalero's kind of right there on the edge of the playoffs, and you got a lot of teams that are hanging around 500 in overall record, so there could be a lot of movement there. The win against Lordsburg on Saturday was definitely big, and so the question is, it may be a fight for second place in districts. Mesilla Valley Christian is ranked number 1 right now in Class 2A. So it's Mescalero and Capitan and Lordsburg probably fighting that little bit out. And is it Estancia also in that district? I'm a little confused if that's a little bit different than football. No, okay, so it's just Mesilla Valley, Lordsburg, Capitan, Mescalero, and Cloudcroft. And Lordsburg's 2-1, Capitan and Mescalero Apache are 1-1, and Mesilla Valley's 2-0. Cloudcroft is 0-3 to begin district play. Tule gets into district play finally this week. It feels like it's been a little while since we've talked about Tularosa volleyball at all, and it's true. I think they've had 10 days off in between matches, so they finally get a chance to get back out there against Dexter. It'll be on the road on Tuesday, and then they don't play again until the 25th. So they got a lot of time off for a team that's going to be a top 4 seed probably in the classification. It's a weird schedule, and a lot of it has to do with the fact that NIMI is playing as an independent and not in that district, so it's just a 3-team district. But they were definitely playing a ton of matches throughout the month of September, so maybe getting a little bit of time off, get everybody rested up. They'll be ready to go by state tournament time, but you would expect Tule to be the heavy favorite in that district. Cloudcroft is off until Thursday when they play Mescalero Apache. Alamogordo Cross Country, the girls finished 2nd. The boys were 5th at the Mayfield Invite hosted by Centennial. I got a kick out of that when Coach Giggler sent that to me the other day. But another solid day on both sides. They had, seemed like most of the girls' team. Gabby Sandoval finished 8th. Mariah Martin was 10th. Heidi Amberson 12th. Ellery Battle 13th. Janae Shackley 14th. And Mackenzie Jordan was 16th. And again, that's that, what is that, sophomore? I think Mariah's a senior. But I think the majority of that group is either 8th grader or freshman, and then Gabby's a sophomore. So that's a group that's exceptionally young, but very, very competitive. Celso Garcia, I know I mention this, it feels like every week, but that young man I don't think has finished outside the top 10 in any race this year. He finished 3rd, was under 17 minutes, ran another very, very good race. Alex Cavolo finished 17th. Michael Gagnon, 25th. Victor Grimaldo was 27th, and Briggs Spencer finished 41st. And again, the big thing for the boys is, I think, probably trying to figure out that 5th spot before they head into district and state. That'll be the big thing for them. And if they get Paxton Rodwick back from injury, that might figure it out. But he's also been out for a pretty significant amount of time. Will he be able to get back out there and run the way that he wants to? That'll, I'm sure, be a little bit of a question mark for them. They've got some time off unless their schedule ends up changing. We'll let you know. I know that there was talks of trying to get that Socorro meet back on the schedule. That got canceled due to weather. But Carlsbad on the 25th, which is next Thursday, is the next scheduled meet for Alamogordo Cross Country. And then district comes up on the 3rd, which is the following Saturday. And that'll determine who's heading to state out of District 3 5A. So we'll see what happens there. All right, I think we're up to speed on everything locally. Mescalero football had a tough day against Estancia. 52-0 was the final score there. So they dropped to, I think, 2-6 now on the season and finish up their year against Capitan on Friday night. That'll be at Capitan, and that is the regular season finale for the Chiefs for this season. So they'll try and see if they can finish off on a positive and pick up a win at Capitan. That would be a big deal for that group. Capitan's not having a particularly strong season. This is a team that just got done playing in 2 straight state championship games in Class 3A, winning 2 years ago, finishing runner-up last year. And, clearly just going through a little bit of a rebuild is Capitan, and I'm sure there's other reasons behind maybe having a down year by their standards. New coach this year as well, so that changes things up a little bit. So we'll see who gets the win there. 2 teams that are looking for their first varsity wins of the year. Capitan, I don't know if they've played. Yeah, it looks like they've played all varsity this year. So they lost a 8-point game to Hagerman, a 7-point game to Nimi. Lost by 12 to Jal, 20 to Texaco. Loving beat them by 25. Estancia beat them 50-0. Estancia's maybe Estancia and Eunice in the 2A title game this year. I don't know. And then lost to Lordsburg by 8. So they played a lot of close games this year. This is a team that certainly has been competitive, just hasn't been able to put it all together. And I think Mescalero's had that at times this year. So I got Estancia at 4. I forgot about Fort Sumner. Santa Rosa, too. That's good. I tell you what, the 2A postseason, I feel like has sort of been a little bit of an afterthought in a lot of other years because last year I think they had 7 teams. The year before that, I think it was the same number. And if you go back, it was 8 or 9 teams now. This year, you at least had 18 teams in that classification. And it just makes it a little bit more intriguing. You had some teams that moved from 8-man back to 11-man football this year and some teams that moved down. So, Santa Rosa, who had been in the same classification as Tularosa for a while, now in the same classification as Cloudcroft and Mescalero. The same goes for Estancia. Who else? Texaco, I think. Yeah, Texaco was playing in 3A last year. So was Loving. I believe that's right. I have to go back and look at last year's. I don't know if I can even look at last year's standings. Well, let me do that. Yeah, I'll try to see if I can figure that out during the break. But just kind of nice that, the small school football, there's at least a little bit more. I thought the NMAA did a real good job of creating a bigger classification there. And I think they've balanced out football pretty nicely this year. There's a couple fewer teams in each classification, but it certainly feels like there's a better chance that each class you'll see some good action all the way across the board. And I think that'll be pretty fun to watch. All right, let's go ahead and fit in our first commercial break. I'm running a little bit late. It's okay. If you want to call into the show, 437-1230. More of the roundup for you right after this.
People you know, community people, community people.
If you're looking for a new car or truck, we've got your loan and a local dealer has your vehicle. It's the people you know combination. See us today. Federally insured by NCUA, OFCU, 3 branches in Otero County, 434-8500.
Community people, you know.
Score big with great savings at Justin's Motor Company. Hustle on down to one of Justin's 2 locations. Cars, trucks, SUVs, Jeeps, you name it, Justin's has it. Makes and models to fit any budget and the best customer service in town. One-stop online shopping makes your next car buying experience a breeze. Check out the full inventory, meet the staff, even apply online. All at justinsmotorcompany.com. 2 locations conveniently located on the Holloman Highway or 489-5820, Justin's Motor Company.
Everybody else wakes up so rested and cheery, while you wake up with back pain and ready to get back into bed again. They make you sick. It takes 30 minutes just to get your back feeling normal. You work hard to make life great. Why is sleep such an issue? It shouldn't be. Sleepwell can help you find your sleep again. From finding a mattress that supports your back to relieving strain by using a power base, Sleepwell will partner with you. Come see us today. Find the rest you need and lose the back pain. When you sleep well, you live well.
Now you have a choice when it comes to keeping massive files of your bank statements every month. With an online e-statement, you'll have an accurate, easy-to-read electronic statement you can access anywhere, anytime. Get more control over your cash flow. And no more giant filing cabinets. Our e-statements get an A+. First National Bank, member FDIC. When you grow, we grow.
This is Brandon with Desert Sun. I'm not sure if you all know this, but Desert Sun Auto Group consists of 5 dealerships across the great state of New Mexico. This means we have 5 new car departments with over 500 vehicles to choose from and over 200 quality pre-owned vehicles. Majority of these vehicles, when bought from us, are backed with Desert Sun's lifetime powertrain protection. Stop by either Desert Sun Motors or Desert Sun Toyota today and let us help you find your new ride. See our full inventory at DesertSunMotors.com.
When you hear the term Outfitters of Champions, you know it's the Winner's Circle. They can do all your custom silkscreen and embroidery on hats, shirts, and jackets. Whether it's for your business, team sales, special events, or personal use. The Winner's Circle is the place for quality work at reasonable prices with group and team discounts available. They also customize trophies, personalized plaques, and sporting gear. The Winner's Circle, 1201 10th Street, or give them a call at 437-9373.
Selfless service is the guiding principle that drives Army National Guard soldiers to be always ready whenever disaster strikes. Every Army National Guard member serves not only to protect the nation, but also their local communities, so they each have a stake in the security and well-being of the neighborhoods where they live and work. They are your next-door neighbors and your colleagues in schools, offices, and factories. Since the early days of our republic, the Army National Guard has continued its timeless commitment to guarantee peace and security for all Americans, a proud legacy which has endured for nearly 4 centuries. To be a Guard soldier is to stand ready to serve at all times for family, for community, and for country. Selfless service, it's what inspires the men and women of the Army National Guard to be part of something greater than themselves. To learn more, log on to NationalGuard.com or contact an Army National Guard recruiter in your area. Sponsored by the New Mexico Army National Guard, aired by the New Mexico Broadcasters Association and this station.
ESPN Alamogordo 103.7. Welcome back into the show. 437-1230 if you'd like to call in. As always, love to hear from y'all. So football coming up this week. Tigers are at Roswell, Goddard, to be exact. We'll be at the Wool Bowl live at 6:45 here on ESPN Alamogordo as district begins for the Tigers. Goddard did get the win, by the way, over Santa Teresa. Pretty close game, though. I didn't see what the final. I saw 22-8 or 20-8 at some point in the game. Let's see. 22-8 was the final. So certainly not what Santa Teresa wanted, but by no means were they outmatched by Goddard. I mean, if that had come out to be a 45-0 game or a blowout or a mercy rule is what I was looking for, certainly would have, I think, changed a lot of people's views on Santa Teresa. I don't think anybody necessarily believes that Santa T is going to compete for a state championship this year. However, certainly they're going to not be an easy out, and you got to feel like they're going to have a pretty good chance at getting a home playoff game in Class 5A. So, pretty cool deal there for them. Any other overly interesting scores from the weekend? I don't know if there was anything that really jumped out at me that either shocked me or Hobbs rolled past Gadsden 47-7. I was mildly surprised that Hobbs didn't mercy roll that game. Cleveland beat Cibola 52-15. That was not really that close. Hey, look at Hatch Valley, another win as they beat Silver. So Hatch with another nice win. They're 3-4 this season. So good for those guys. Eunice rolled past Hagerman 51-0. That train just keeps chugging right along. St. Pius over Bernalillo 42-2. Bernalillo got off to a really good start this season, and it's kind of gone by the wayside a little bit for them. Rio Rancho got a much-needed win over West Mesa. Centennial 13-0 over Mayfield. Again, another very close game. But Centennial's, finding a way. And, they won a tight game against Cruces. They won a tight game against Mayfield. Their big game left is against Hobbs to win that district. But certainly proved themselves to be the best team in the city of Las Cruces this year. That's got to be a big deal for those kids. And I'm sure it really doesn't make the Mayfield folks and the Las Cruces High folks particularly happy. But, oh well, that's just kind of how it goes sometimes. And, hey, Chaparral got a win. Congrats to them. They beat Cathedral over the weekends, so they get their first win of the season. Happy for those kids. Monzano shut out Clovis 19-0. I was a little surprised by that one. And we getting good Saturday games. It was a relatively quiet weekend. Socorro shut out Albuquerque Academy. That's not a big shocker. Carlsbad rolled past Oñate. Yeah, not much else. This weekend, we got any good Thursday games in Albuquerque? Rio Grande still looking for their first win of the season against Albuquerque. Wait a minute. I thought Rio Grande won a game this year. I was completely sure they did. Did they have to forfeit some games? Yep. Their game against Valencia was forfeited. I missed that. I got to go and find that story. So I guess technically they didn't break their losing streak. I mean, I'd love to know what happened there. I saw them at 0-8. I'm like, wait a minute. They broke their losing streak this year. That makes me kind of sad. I feel bad for those kids. I mean, the best guess is they probably had an ineligible player. I mean, that's usually what most forfeits are, but how weird. Now, what do we got for this weekend in terms of marquee matchups? I don't know if we've got Cleveland hosts Volcano Vista 6-1. Boy, I really hadn't been paying that much attention to what the Hawks have been doing this year. They've had a nice season. Roswell at Artesia should be a really, really good one. I'm curious to see, Artesia, again, they don't really have a bad loss. Hobbs looks like, they're going to be somewhat of a contender this year in 6A. Cleveland's the best team in the state, and Carlsbad's good. So, again, not a bad loss. I'm curious to see what happens in that Valencia-Los Lunas game. Valencia's 6-1. Their only loss is to Santa Teresa. I can't even imagine how big a win that would be for Valencia to beat Los Lunas. There's such a difference. I mean, it's the same community, but the difference in the schools, I think Los Lunas has like 500 more kids that go to that school compared to Valencia High School, just because I think of where Valencia is. And so I'm sure there's a little bit of a complex there for Valencia, and beating Los Lunas in anything has got to be a big deal for those kids and those coaches. So that's one I'm definitely curious to see what happens there. And Los Lunas, again, I mean, what that team is without Nick Garland, there's a bunch of other kids on that team. I know I focus on that, and I'm sure a lot of other people do, and that's probably unfair. Dexter and Nimi, if you're a Thule fan, you're probably watching that a little bit. Of course, Thule opens up district this weekend against Tucumcari. So I'm sure they'll be keeping a close eye on that. Portales and Ruidoso, an interesting game. I think Dexter ended up beating Portales last week, and I didn't see that score for some reason. And the Centennial Hobbs game is this weekend, so that's probably the biggest game of the weekend. There's probably going to be a couple to have a debate on with that. So Valley and Belen is an interesting Class 5A matchup. Valley's a team that, again, probably not getting discussed enough, or maybe I'm just not paying enough attention to Valley, but that's a team, again, that dropped in classification, and they're sitting at number 8 right now. So they're fighting it out to try and get a home playoff game. And against Belen, who's number 9, that's an intriguing matchup between those two sides. And you've got a Valley program that's used to playing the big boys, and now they're down a classification. You got Judge Chavez there, who's I don't know how many times we talked about the kind of quality head coach he is. So, Valley might be one of those sneaky teams in Class 5A, mainly because I think 5A doesn't really have what you would consider a world beater this year. Goddard's very good. We know Artesia's very good. Roswell's very good. But, other than that, you've got a bunch of pretty good teams, I guess, would be the way to describe it. So there's not somebody that feels like they're going to run away with it. Los Lunas, maybe they were going to be that team if it wasn't for some injuries. Piedra Vista, again, a team that has been a 6A team and now is a 5A team. Lost a tight one on the road to Roswell. I thought PV was still up at 6A. That's my bad. Santa Teresa, who's a nice story this year. Valencia, who's a nice story this year. Both those teams who are at 6-1. There's kind of the feeling of probably playing with house money a little bit. They're probably going to get home playoff games and have got to feel good about, hey, maybe we got a chance to do something special, surprise some folks. And then you got teams like Farmington. I think Deming is solid. Got to see them earlier this year. That's not a bad football team. And then probably Los Alamos. So 5A to me is going to be really interesting how that all works itself out. And I'm curious to see how good Goddard is this weekend. And if Alamo can hang with them, that'd be nice to see if the Tigers can have a good competitive game with the Rockets coming up on Saturday. And let's see, Saturday, any good games? Doesn't look like it. So, yeah, there's a few pretty solid matchups, and those are all going to be district matchups too. So, Volcano Vista, Cleveland, and Hobbs and Centennial, and that's going to mean Centennial can essentially lock up their district championship with that one. I think the only team they've got left on their schedule is Gadsden, because they already played all 4 Cruces schools and then have Hobbs. And then, of course, their bye week. So Centennial's got to be feeling, if they can come out of that win on the road against Hobbs, going to be sitting pretty. They'll be undefeated heading into the postseason. So it'll be Centennial and maybe Cleveland with no losses heading into the playoffs. I'll be curious to see, and La Cueva's still undefeated too, aren't they? I'll be curious of how the seeding is going to work out. I mean, is it going to be 1, 2, 3? You've got 3 undefeated teams. And is it Cleveland, La Cueva, Centennial? Seems like it would be. Now, obviously for Centennial, there's so much in this for them, because if they don't win that game at Hobbs, they're probably not even getting a first-round bye. Maybe El Dorado might drop a spot instead. But that's the tough part about all of that, is you look at it and go, There's a lot more than just a district championship on the line for Centennial. You got to feel like that group has higher aspirations than just going out there and winning their district. I love seeing these rankings on Max Preps, because when you see, Hope Christian at number 10 and Eunice at 12, Taos at 15, it would just be curious to see, Taos play Carlsbad, because they're ranked ahead of them. They're ranked ahead of Clovis too. Same for Eunice. Eunice having to play Clovis or Carlsbad would, to me, just, who knows? I think common sense says, yeah, they probably can't be competitive. That you would expect Clovis and Carlsbad to win that game, or Taos. Or how about Artesia? Eunice versus Artesia. Because Artesia's, according to Max Preps, ranked behind Eunice. So that's why I always say, take those Max Preps rankings with a grain of salt, because they're fun to talk about. The only issue that I have sometimes is, this can have an impact on where teams get seeded sometimes, or on the rare occasion whether somebody gets into the postseason or not. But that's one of those deals that I don't really have a ton of sympathy in those cases, just because if you're in that spot to begin with, unless it's just a grievous error by the NMAA, which you don't see very often, and if they do make one, they usually fix it after the brackets come out. We've seen that. That happened to, I don't know, I don't want to say it was a grievous error, but it was an error that I think Alamo girls soccer was going to have a bye, and they changed it. They had to play that home game against Valencia last year. So we've definitely seen that happen. But, if you're in that spot where you're, around that 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and you leave it up to the committee, you just kind of have to take your medicine if it doesn't work your way, because you obviously have your 20 or 26 game schedule or 10 game schedule to kind of decide, make your case. And then, of course, don't tell fans that, because they're going to be, we got, now there's a word I'd use there, but gypped. Is that a good word? There's another word I'd use there. Anyway, let's take a break. We'll come back. If you want to call on the show, 437-1230. One more break, and we'll finish it off. And again, a reminder, just 2 shows this week. We got baseball on the air tomorrow and Wednesday, and we'll be back on Thursday to get you ready for the weekend. And then Friday, of course, I'm on the road to Roswell for Tiger football. So we'll take a break and come back. You're listening to The Roundup.
There are no roadblocks scheduled today on either Highway 70 or 54 South. For the latest roadblock information, call 575-678-1178. Tonight's forecast is calling for cloudy skies, 30% chance of precipitation, with that being snow up in the mountains in Alamogordo. Overnight low of 37 for Cloudcroft, a low of 26. For tomorrow, we're looking at mostly cloudy skies, 30% chance of precipitation, being snow up in the mountains in Alamogordo tomorrow. High of 50, low of 38. Cloudcroft tomorrow, high of 34, overnight low of 26.
I had 5 drunk driving charges in the last 6 years of my drinking, and I drank for over 55 years. My probation officer threatened me with a year in jail, so the next day I went to my first AA meeting. I had tried many times in my life to quit drinking, but always went back to even heavier drinking. For me, the AA program has been the easier, softer way to stop drinking. Alcoholics Anonymous. It works. Look us up.
For the local AA hotline, call 430-9502. That's 430-9502.
Looking for a good pre-owned vehicle? You know the one everyone wants? Late model, low mileage, good condition? Then you need to look at Richardson Motors. Robbie and his staff will get you in a vehicle you want, whether it's a car, truck, SUV, or van. At Richardson Motors, it's about taking care of the customer right the first time. So for the best service, the best vehicles, it's gotta be the best dealership. Richardson Motors. Richardson Motors, 318 South White Sands, next to McDonald's.
What makes Vision Ford Lincoln Hyundai unique? At Vision Ford, we're all about you. Your vision, your style, your needs, and your story. Vision is fully stocked with dozens of the hottest 2018 models, including the Ford F-Series, America's #1 selling truck for 40 years. With financing options that fit every budget and a sales team dedicated to you, Vision Ford Lincoln Hyundai continues the Yes We Can tradition. All we need is you. Visit us today at 1500 South White Sands Boulevard or 24/7 online at visionfordlincoln.com. The KNMZ Football Roundtable is back for its 31st season. 5 local business people and their best football prognostications every Friday at 11 a.m. on ESPN Alamogordo. Manny Gonzalez from Charles Garland and Harris Agency. Donna Columbus of First National Bank. Brandon Burling from Desert Sun Auto Group. Timothy Brock of Christ Community Church. And Jake Roberts of Caldwell Banker Sutterth Nelson. The KNMZ Football Roundtable, Fridays at 11 a.m. on Southern New Mexico Sports Leader, ESPN Alamogordo 103.7.
If you find yourself frustrated because your internet is slow, then you need to call Tularosa Basin Telephone Company. They have the speed, the reliability, and the customer service to turn your frustration into smiles. Now, doesn't that sound like a better plan? Call Tularosa Basin Telephone Company at 585-2700 and get connected today.
Stop by White Sands Motorsports right here in Alamogordo for all your power sport needs. White Sands Motorsports carries Honda, Yamaha, and Roxor. New to the store, Can-Am and Textron side-by-side vehicles. As always, they handle parts and services for all makes and models. For the best power sport deals on 2 or 4 wheels, White Sands Motorsports has got you covered. Open Tuesday through Friday, 9:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. and Saturdays, 9:30 to 5. 21070 Highway 70 or visit motorsportsofnewmexico.com.
It's all happening Sunday, October 21st at the Tay Center from 2 until 4. The Flickinger Guild's 16th annual fundraiser, the Turquoise and Silver Tea Destination Vacation. Come early and browse silent auction items. Enjoy door prizes and view the area's best fashions on the runway. Advance tickets are $12 and available from Guild members, the Flickinger Center, or online at flickingercenter.com. Tickets are $15 the day of the event. For more information, call the Flickinger Center at 437-2202.
You're listening to ESPN Alamogordo 103.7. Welcome back into the show. Hey, my Buffalo Bills found a new and exciting way to lose a football game on Sunday. That was, and I remember saying to myself, the game was tied and the Bills had a chance to drive down the field with about 2 minutes left, and I said, I smell pick six, and it was 2 plays after that, it was over. It's like, how is Nathan Peterman still? They need to cut him today, this week. What is it with that team or Sean McDermott or whoever? He is not an NFL quarterback. And it's, you know what? It's things like that that give Colin Kaepernick's case credence. When you see guys like that still in the league, When clearly he has only thrown 79 pass attempts in the NFL. 9 have been interceptions. He is not an NFL quarterback. I know backups generally don't have to play that much, but you're telling me there's not better options out there? Bills probably don't win that game anyway. And he made a really nice touchdown pass to put the Bills in front earlier in the game. Give him all credit on that. But that's the thing, to be a quarterback in the NFL, yeah, you can probably make some of the throws, any guy that played college football, but to be able to read defenses and not throw interceptions, yeah. And I don't necessarily know if there's collusion among NFL owners when it comes to Kaepernick. I'm not in that room. I don't know. And it's not really even a room other than the owners' meetings. But you look at somebody like Nathan Peterman, it's like, dude, how does he still have a job in the NFL? And the Bills haven't cut him today. I just don't get it. What purpose is it to have that player on your roster? I knew the Bills were going to be bad this year, and it's been a slight surprise in how competitive they've been, but it's only been because of the defense. And that's the great thing about McDermott the fact that Nathan Peterman on a Sunday, NFL Sunday, he was the twice in his career, he has been the top trending topic on Twitter. And it's because of how bad he is. There's all these things going on in the rest of the games. But Nathan Peterman's like, hi. Let me have your attention for a second. And I'm sure you get coach speak from McDermott. Oh, he's a good player, and he's got a good head on his shoulders, and blah 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 blah. I think especially in the NFL and in professional sports, it's a results-based business, and his results are terrible. I mean, they went into this season with him as their starting quarterback. They thought, this guy's better than... Who did they have on their roster previously? I can't remember who it was. A.J. McCarron, that's who it was. My goodness. It's not like Josh Allen's been good. It's not like that had to be a hard job to win for anybody. Sorry. I generally try not to jump on here and complain about my teams too much, but it's more of a I don't understand than anything else. Please help me understand. Great game last night, by the way. Mahomes bounced back. He had a bad first half. And, very easily could have won that game. The defense is able to make a stop there against Brady. You never know. That's going to be the Chiefs' downfall this year is their defense. If that doesn't get any better before the end of the year, that's what's going to cost them in the playoffs. But, man, Mahomes is a bunch of fun to watch. And Brady's just still he's just such a wily veteran. I mean, the things that he does and the way that he helps his team win, he's probably not going to be, the 400-yard passer all the time anymore. But he doesn't care if he is. Belichick sure as heck doesn't care. That's one of those things that always stands out about the Patriots is they're going to game plan and find a way to win. And last night, a lot of their game plan was running the football. It's good stuff. That was a great game. Cowboys looked great yesterday. The Jaguar, how quickly have we turned on the Jags after that win over the Patriots? Super Bowl! And then everything came back down to earth. How did New England lose to Jacksonville? Did the Jags just get full of themselves after that game and they haven't been able to recover, or what's the deal? So the Jags are 3-3, 2-3 now. That division is atrocious, by the way. I think Houston, are they in first place? They started 0-3. I think if anything, they're tied for first place. Tennessee was awful yesterday. Craziness. So maybe we'll talk about it more on Thursday. I'm not here tomorrow and Wednesday. Enjoy baseball. And we didn't really talk about that. Red Sox got the win last night. Tonight, Game 3 of the National League Championship Series. With that series all tied up at 1. Enjoy it here on ESPN Alamogordo. You guys have a great rest of your day.
Hey, this is Dan Lebitard. You're listening to ESPN Alamogordo, 103.7, Southern New Mexico's sports leader, KNMZ Alamogordo.
Yes, in Los Angeles tonight, Brewers and Dodgers with the series tied up at 1. Justin Turner, the hero in Game 2 with his go-ahead 2-run home run after an 0-for-5 performance in the series opener.
Yeah, I think it was well documented. That was probably the worst game of my career offensively, but I think you just shrug it off to beat about baseball. We got to go to sleep and show up and do it again today. So, yeah, obviously wasn't feeling good about myself last night and wasn't happy with the results. But like I said, today was a new day and another chance to go out and win a ball game. So,
rookie Walker Buehler makes a start for the Dodgers, opposed by Jaleesa